Welcome to Functional Roots, where whole body wellness begins in the mouth. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Heather, and we're hygienists with a passion for all things holistic, functional, and naturopathic.
This isn't your average dental podcast. Around here, we dig deep, past the plaque and into the powerful connections between oral health, the body, and the way we live.
Whether you're a fellow dental professional, a wellness enthusiast, or just someone curious about taking a more natural approach to your health, you're in the right place.
So grab your favorite herbal tea, settle in, and let's get to the root of it all.
Awesome. Perfect.
All right. Today we are joined by Ms. Courtney Justice, and she is a registered dental hygienist and the founder and executive director of Painted Sky Dental, an organization dedicated to expanding access to compassionate, high-quality oral health care through rural and underserved in southwestern Colorado. Courtney earned her bachelor's degree in dental hygiene from Minnesota State University, Mankato. I knew I was going to mess it up. Her commitment to advancing the profession extends beyond clinical care. She serves on the board of the Colorado Dental Hygienist Association, where she advocates for greater access to care and continued professional advancement for dental hygienists. Courtney is also an adjunct professor at San Juan College in Farmington, New Mexico, where she helps educate and inspire the next generation of dental hygienists. Nationally, she volunteers with Remote Area Medical as a mobile dental X-ray core lead, helping deliver essential healthcare services to people in remote and marginalized communities. For Courtney, southwestern Colorado is more than just the community she serves, it's home. When she isn't teaching, traveling, or coordinating clinics, you can find her exploring the local trails, attending a performance at the Durango Art Center, or enjoying one of the area's local restaurants. Courtney, welcome, and we are excited for finding out more about what is the mission behind Painted Sky Dental and what the realities are in performing services in rural areas.
Thanks so much for having me.
So excited. All right. So let's get going here with what is your story and what originally drew you into dental hygiene?
So I started out as a history major, and I wanted to be a historical war psychologist, which you probably don't know what that is because it's not a job. I basically just wanted someone to pay me to research the things I wanted to research for the rest of my life. And when the reality of that not being feasible set in, I had a friend who was a hygienist and she recommended I go to assisting school. And so I was an assistant and I fell in love with teeth. They just made sense to me. And so I promised myself that if I still loved my job after 5 years, I would apply to hygiene school. And I put a notification in my Google Calendar. And I was at work one day and I got a notification in my Google Calendar and I was like, I still love it. And so I applied to dental hygiene school.
So how long have you been out of school? I don't think there was a date.
10 years. I graduated in 2016.
What a time. What a time. Okay,
Yeah.
I want to know what era of history.
Oh, I really like American military conflicts. Every generation in my family has served in the military back to the Revolutionary War. I'm a daughter of the American Revolution, just like Rory Gilmore, not to brag. And so I absolutely love my family's history and how it has shaped the nation. And I can go on huge tangents about this, but I really like war history.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, in this journey, what was the experience that kind of opened your eyes to oral health disparities and rural and underserved communities?
So I went to school in Minnesota, like you mentioned, and in Minnesota, we have a very large tribal population, or I don't live there anymore. They have a very large tribal population. And so I went to a school that was very dedicated to public health. And so we would do injection assisting at like it was called the Union Gospel Mission in Minneapolis. And so we would go and it was individuals transitioning from incarcerated settings into more traditional mainstream places. And so it was the the unclassy way to call it would be like a halfway house. And so we would go there and we would do injections for SRPs and whatever the dentist on staff was doing. And I really got to see how individuals were treated in incarcerated settings or in IHS settings. And there is a profound difference between how someone enters into, say, an incarcerated setting and comes out of it. And I have the savior complex, if you will, where I'm like, I can fix this. I must fix this. And so public health became something that I needed to do because I was capable and because it was something that wasn't being addressed fully.
It's interesting just knowing, like, I'm from New Mexico, so I'm familiar with the Four Corners, southwestern Colorado area. It's interesting what you're describing and just how it seems like it probably parallels pretty decently to the area you live in now. What drew you to that part of the country?
I was actually recruited. So I worked for Colorado Coalition for the Homeless for Carol Reichel. She won one of the Phillips Hand Heart at Under One Roof. And Danny Ford, who is a past president of the Colorado Dental Hygienist Association at Denver Health. And these two women taught me what it means to run a public health program. And so when I was recruited to come down and live in La Plata County in Durango, Colorado, I felt like I had the skill set to do it because of the women who taught me how to do it. And so I was recruited to work for the public health department down here, and I was here for 4 years, bought a house, made this my home, and then we lost our funding at the public health department. And so I pivoted to what I do now.
So did you grow up in Minnesota area and then you're there? Or
No,
how did you end up in?
I'm from the Palm Springs area in California.
Okay.
I have really nomadic tendencies. I've lived on both coasts. I lived in Greenland, which is my fun party fact that I tell people. And then I went to college in Minnesota, and then Colorado's a boomerang state. You leave and you come back.
Huh. Interesting.
But you're partly in New Mexico, which is known as the land of enchantment, which locals call the land of entrapment. So I don't know that you get the boomerang effect this time, but we'll see. We'll see.
I married a Colorado native, and Colorado natives famously do not leave Colorado. And so I joke that I got him as close to the border of the state that I could. And then he was like, and stop.
Yeah. That's a great part of the state. Fun fact, I will actually be in Colorado tomorrow. Family reunion in the Montrose area, so just up the road from you.
Nice.
Yes.
I was just there a couple of days ago.
Ships in the night. Ships in the night. So, okay, so you were working public health in Durango. Your funding was cut, which led you to do your passion project, Painted Sky Dental. So, tell us about, because Colorado is unique. Some of our listeners may not know, Colorado has autonomy for hygienists. And so please tell us a little bit more about what your scope of practice is and what you do in your practice and what it looks like.
Yeah. So Colorado has actually had independent hygiene practice since 1986. So we're getting ready to celebrate our 40th year of independent practice. And so we are able to own our own practice. And we have, if you look at that really cool ADHA wheel that has like all the different things that you can do, we are fully filled in. The only thing that we really need a dentist for is we need collaborative practice for diagnosing interim therapeutic restoration or the caries that exist to do restorative therapies. So we can do restorative therapies, we do SDF, we are able to do anesthesia. Everything is virtually unsupervised. There's some supervision around nitrous, and there will be some supervision around Botox and prescriptive authority. But for the most part, I only have a collaborative agreement to have diagnosis for caries to do my restorative.
Okay. So when you went to Mankato, I'm going to back up because of
Yeah.
that. When you went to Mankato, because Minnesota does have my brain just shut off for a second. They have the therapist, the dental therapist.
Dental therapist.
Did you finish the dental therapy program
No,
there?
no.
Okay,
So,
interesting.
so
So what are
I,
what are the parameters to practice where you are almost like a dental therapist, correct?
yeah, so dental therapists, the big things that they can do that I can't do as a Colorado hygienist is they can extract, they
Okay.
can do more permanent fillings. And then there's some verbiage around pediatric care.
Okay.
And the biggest thing in Colorado and pretty much nationwide is that if I was a dental therapist in the state of Colorado, I would not be able to own my own practice.
Oh, interesting.
Dental therapists actually have to practice within more supervisory parameters of a dentist than a hygienist.
Yeah. Which makes sense to me. There's a lot more. There's a lot more going on. It would be awesome if we could do it independently, if they could, especially with our certain circumstance, right? Because you're serving the needy, the unserved population that don't have access to care for that. So, what services do you provide through Painted Sky Dental, and how are
Yeah,
you
so
delivering it?
yeah, my trusty van Ramona, she's a Dodge Ram ProMaster. I completely outfitted her as a dental operatory with the help of friends, family, neighbors here in southwestern Colorado. So it is fully equipped. We have X-rays, ITR, SDF. I just started implementing Hygienist as a protocol, which I'm obsessed with. And we have an airflow unit on the van. So folks are really, truly, even in when we're parked outside of soup kitchens, they're getting the absolute best possible care, the most scientifically relevant care that they can get, which I'm very proud of. And I cover so if you're looking at Colorado, it's a big square. I cover about a 4-hour radius chunk in the bottom left-hand corner. So tomorrow I'll be in the van for about 3 hours round trip to see patients in Pagosa Springs. And I go up to Silverton, which is a small former mining town. And then I go out as far west as the Toyac Reservation, which is directly north of the Navajo Reservation.
And what are some of the barriers that come with this sort of setup for you? I know when we were at Evolution, you shared some of your journey of funding and how expensive it is to run your own practice and what it looks like to serve the communities. What does that look like for someone?
Yeah, it's just me. I am front and back office and executive director. And so the need for this program is very evident. I have all of the school districts in that region. So I have 4 counties worth of school districts. I have all of the senior centers, our soup kitchens, everything like that. And so I am fully booked, which sounds in theory like we should be raking in the dough. But unfortunately, in public health, it's not necessarily a very lucrative business model. And so I probably no, I'm not gonna I'm gonna be nice to myself. I am incapable of paying myself a livable wage. Part of why I get to run Painted Sky is because my husband has a good job and he lets me do crazy chaos things like buy a van and do dentistry and drive around all over the place. But truly, if I didn't have his support, it would not be sustainable at all.
How are you getting
How,
funding?
yeah,
What's the process of funding through this?
Yeah, so
Obviously, you need grants and ways to fund it because there's the cost of the equipment, there's, you know,
yeah.
all of the
Well,
throwaway stuff.
yes. The nice thing is the majority of my equipment and the majority of my disposables get donated to me. So that's also part of why I get to run my business the way I do. Most of my equipment was donated by fellow hygienists. And then my disposables, like at Under One Roof, Elevate, Medicom, so many Kettenbach, so many companies let me take home open boxes and things like that that were really going to set me up for the rest of the year and not having to pay those. I do need to get grants, but unfortunately, a lot of federal funding was cut when the CDC Oral Health Division was disbanded. And so it's a lot harder and a lot scarcer of a process to get funding these days. And quite frankly, it's hard for me to sit down and look for these opportunities and apply for them when I'm clinical 4 days a week and I'm in the classroom 1 day a week.
Yeah, that's a lot of time. That's a big time commitment, especially with travel, because Western states are huge.
Yes.
So I'm curious, how do you go about finding the locations to serve? What are the logistics? Is that just something that you set up, or is it something that with your public health, you already knew what to identify and had those targets in place?
A bit of both, honestly. So I had quite a few relationships in place from my previous public health work here, but also I knew the gaps that I would get phone calls about. So historically, my funding with the public health department was pediatric. And so I would get phone calls all the time asking if there was any resources for seniors, if there was any resources for veterans, all of these different populations of people who were being missed because southwestern Colorado, much like New Mexico, is a provider desert. And there's not a lot of options for folks who have Medicaid, and there's even fewer options for folks that don't have insurance. So I was able to see gaps. And as I've gone through this and established partnerships, I've seen people come out of the woodworks like, oh, you should talk to this person, you should talk to that person. And so we're expanding more and more.
No, that's super cool. With barriers to finding, I don't know if barriers is the right term, but just with those issues that patients have finding providers, whether it's through their insurance or not insurance, having the resources to pay out of pocket, what are other barriers that patients face as far as transportation, geography, health literacy? Because that's also a huge one. People don't know what to ask, and I think that can apply to all of us, right? If we, for instance, massages, you don't know what to ask when you go in for a massage. You're like, yeah, I want you to touch my body and make it not hurt. And not knowing what to say or what to ask for is difficult. So what have you seen to be some of the issues and barriers that your patients face with the dental acuity?
I would say one thing that comes up a lot is, so in the 4 counties that I cover, only one municipal water area has community fluoridated water. And a lot of the areas that I serve are on wells. They're on mine runoff areas. There's parts of the reservation that don't have running water at all. And so water scarcity, and I think there's like a fear, which is very real in some of these regions, about not being able to drink water. And so it's a lot of bottled water. It's a lot of alternative options in sippy cups and bottles and things like that. And so truly getting into the meat of water availability and what bottled water actually does to the oral the oral biome, sorry, and the acidity of it and things like that, that has been a big piece that I don't feel like this community had a huge check on. And so that's been really cool to explain to patients.
And that's very real. Southwest Colorado is a huge mining town. My family is from southwestern Colorado. My grandpa's from Telluride when it was a mining town, not the multi-million-dollar ski resort place that it is now. And that is what my family did, was mining. And oh gosh, I can't even tell you how long ago it was, but the Gold King mine spill that happened in Silverton that literally made the river, you couldn't float. You couldn't do whitewater rafting
It was
in
orange.
it was orange. And that killed Durango, an entire season of tourism. I didn't even consider obviously people drinking that water, but just the tourism aspect of it. So that is a very real threat that I had not considered, was that contamination and the trickle down of the bottled water. And not all bottled water is created equal. And it's not a very affluent part of the country. It's very low income. And so it's not going to be good quality water. It's going to be the cheap crap water. Like you said, it does have a higher acidity. And yeah, minerally balanced, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's
And then if they're not drinking water, then what goes in the sippy cups? Juice.
juice,
It's-
soda, energy drink, alcohol, honestly, is huge in that part of the state. Like,
Yeah.
lots of alcohol.
Yeah.
So what have you done to combat or educate on that? Just patient by patient, or have you tried to take other initiatives? Knowing your background of activism.
A bit of both. So it's patient by patient, obviously, because we're going to spend a good chunk of our time educating our patients. I also am a certificate holder in oral systemic education. So I did my 40 hours of additional education. So each patient gets 90 minutes from me. And so we really go through a lot in that 90 minutes. But also, I've spoken at senior centers, I've spoken at Head Start facilities, on parent nights, talking about things. I have this I call it my Bill Nye experiment, where I have a jar that says sugar, I have a jar that says bacteria, and I have a jar that says your mouth. And it's literally just rapid yeast and sugar and hot water. And so it shows bacterial overgrowth over time. And so at the start of every presentation that I do my Bill Nye the Science Guy experiment, and then I set it to the side, and then I do my education piece, whatever I'm there to speak about. And at the end, I'm like, can you please look at this? And the yeast has gone completely bonkers, and it's like overflowing, and it smells like a bakery in there. And parents love that because they're like, oh my God, I had no idea that giving my child juice to go to bed, or even breastfeeding before they go to sleep, they don't realize that their child's mouth is saturated and what's actually happening. And so visuals like that really help. And then I've testified at City Hall on behalf of community water legislation with Durango City Council. And when I worked for the public health department, I would go to the water treatment facility every year to retour and see what water looked like for that year.
Very interesting. So, okay, you get 90 minutes, you choose to take 90 minutes with your patients. So walk us through what an appointment looks like and the value that you're bringing to the community.
All of our appointments occur specifically for adults. They get 90 minutes. Kiddos, it's a little bit different because I'm in the school and they get a little more quick, rapid fire appointments. But for an adult, they come into the van, they get x-rays, and they get a full oral cancer screening. They get a full hard and soft tissue evaluation. We perio chart, we hard chart, everything along those lines. At that point, if I see any lesions that I believe would be good candidates for ITR, I'm going to pop out my MouthWatch camera and take pictures. And I'm actually piloting a program right now with Dentistry 1, which is the teledentistry portion of MouthWatch, to create some standard work around independent practice and collaborative models. And so I would send everything through the Teledentistry 1 portal to my collaborative dentist. He would say yes, no. And so while he's reviewing everything, I continue on with the appointment. If they need SRP or if they need a prophy, we walk through what that looks like. We discuss periodontal health. I usually don't start actually cleaning the teeth until a good 30 minutes in. And so they get full hygiene services there. And then on the back end, we also go through their entire oral health history, any substance use, any medications, or systemic things that are going on in their body. And we tie that back to the oral cavity. We talk about how if your A1C is a little bit out of control, that's why your papillas are a little more spongy and a little more purpley, and what that looks like. And a lot of people do the typical, oh, there's nothing medically related with my mouth. And so I actually do everyone's health history with them. And I ask them very specific questions. And it's not, do you have anything you need to tell me? It's, do you have a history of persistent cough? Do you have a history of high or low blood pressure? We go through every single pinpoint and then talk about how that links back. And then SDF if they need it, ITR if it's approved, and then fluoride if they consent to it. And then we put them on a recall.
That's amazing.
I know.
They're getting just the amount of care that you're giving the underserved is better care than some are getting. And so I want to give you a big shout out for being so caring and making it above and beyond in the model that you're in. If you were just looking to just clean, you wouldn't be providing the 90-minute session to really get them to understand the importance of the services that you're providing. Like you said, you have a lot of the top-notch technology that you're bringing into the community and serving those who probably need it the most. That's awesome.
Thank you. I like to say that dentistry is often a luxury item in our country. And so it's trying to make it actually feel like a luxury item without it being a luxury, if that makes sense. And so I understand that sometimes my cash pay patients are choosing between rent security or food security or paying for me to see them. And so I want them to know that their money, that their Medicaid benefits that are persistently getting cut, they just took they took a generalized 2% cut in Colorado across the board. And so if they're going to be taking away from their benefits, if they're going to be taking away from their time, their cash, I want them to know that they are getting the absolute best possible care and that they deserve it.
What does a cash pay patient pay for your
So so I bill out for the screening code. One thing that I've noticed with dentists in the area is they don't love it when you do like a comp exam. So I can do periodics and I can do like screening codes. So for an exam / screening code and a prophy and bite wings, it's $132. And that's Medicaid rates. So my prices will always match Colorado Medicaid rates.
Okay.
That's wildly reasonable. But still, if you're needing that security, it can still strain a budget, absolutely. But just it's not unattainable.
And that was my goal. So I wanted it also to be as equitable as possible. Everything I do is rooted in equity. So if I'm charging a Medicaid patient $132, then I wanted my cash pay patients to know that they were getting the exact same treatment, the exact same bill out as someone who is insured. But it's attainable, but we also have a little bit of funding from the state that lets me offset costs for children and seniors that are uninsured. And I run out of that pool of funding in month 3 of 12.
So what does the funding look like for you? What sort of partnerships are essential for keeping your organization operating, especially if you're running out 3 months in? Like, how are you funding? What's your mainstream of funding too? Because honestly, the operation side, like you said, you're not paying yourself that much. Even at $130 an hour, I know that sounds like a lot, but it's not at the end of the day a lot for running what you're doing. The gas money itself.
Yeah. Gas, insurance, keep. Yeah.
Yes. So what sort of partnerships, what sort of funding are you utilizing and where are the gaps?
So I get funding from the state of Colorado. They give me $15,000 a year. And so that's my scholarship fund. It doesn't go towards my salary or anything. It truly goes towards providing care to individuals who are uninsured or underinsured. Veterans are always free on the van because we don't have a VA dental system here in this region. And then anyone going through a domestic violence program is free as well. And so that money gets eaten up pretty quickly from there. Archuleta County, which is Pagosa Springs, they give me a little bit of money to offset the costs for their students specifically. And that's just a couple $1,000s, which so grateful for that. And then we do bill Medicaid, Cigna, United, and Delta insurances, and then do take cash pay options. When I started Painted Sky, I knew I wanted it to be a 501c3 federal nonprofit. So we could accept donations and we could apply for federal and state funding. And so we are a federally recognized nonprofit.
I don't want this to get political, but I was just thinking of how just the quality of amazing work that you're doing, and just no matter where we're at on the political spectrum, just seeing the fraud that we have seen take place just the last months. Millions, if not into billions of dollars of fraud, where care from very legitimate providers, you're scraping by. That's really frustrating and nauseating to see. And you should be fully funded. You should be absolutely fully funded. And just other things that have been absolutely squandered away are nauseating to see happen. Are just, yeah.
My master's degree that I'm finishing is in political science and public policy. So you're always welcome to get political with me.
Yeah. No, it's fun. So what kind of next steps? It sounds like you maybe are already trying to take those next steps through the policy aspect of things. Is that something that you're looking to move in a direction where you're able to have better access or just better knowledge of grants, or what was your goal with that?
With my master's degree, I really like legislation. I really like
I don't want
being
to
able
say said no one ever, but that sounds horrible. So
I love it so much.
you start quoting statute.
She-
I'm like,
She lights up like I do about the oral microbiome, about legislation.
I'm sure you and Danielle Evans are like, do you know Danielle Evans? Of course.
We were in DC together. So when I was president of the Colorado Dental Hygienist Association, part of the legislation that I got to help pass in my presidency was the interstate compact. And so I got to go represent Colorado at a meeting of the states in conjunction with the Department of Defense. And so I think one of the biggest things, I'm going to go on a tangent here. I think one of the biggest things we can do for our profession is to continue to create precedents that we can take across state lines. So if we are creating an interstate compact where we are able to show across state lines the level of continuity in our education, which is set forth by the Dental Association, mind you, then we should be able to take precedent from states that have full scopes of practice and utilize it in creating expanded scopes in states that don't necessarily have it. And so I love running my mouth about that. It's pretty much one of my favorite things. I joke that I'm probably more comfortable sitting in front of a Senate or a House hearing committee than I am in front of my classroom of students, because I'm so passionate about it. And if I don't know it very well, then the people on my right and my left do. And so that's what I want to do with my master's degree, is I want to have our alphabet soup. I want to have a little more weight behind my name, so that way when I go to the legislative table, I'm taken seriously and I'm considered the subject matter expert that I am.
I mean, as much as some of us don't want to get into the politics of we all know that right now we are at a crossroads for our career. And if we don't have people like you
Yes.
standing up for us, so can I just pay the Colorado? Can I be a Colorado?
That's what I say about Utah.
Can I join Colorado?
We will happily take you.
Yeah, in full disclosure, like I didn't pay for a long time. Of course, the tumultuous situation that dental hygiene is in right now, I think we're all fired up about what's going on for our career. So we need to, as much as we think that the associations may have not helped us in the past, we've got to get behind each other and be boisterous about what's going on, because there's going to be a huge downfall in care if we let assistants do our job, because we can't chairside train from dentists and think that the care and the prevention, like the care that you're giving, is actually going to be taking place. As someone who has worked in an office who illegally had their assistants cleaning, the amount of disease that I came home crying from, because I had to tell them they were losing teeth because of the lack of care that had been provided, is, and I see it across the country with coaching. We need to stand up for our career path, and we need hygienists like you. Thank you.
Yeah, 100%. I have very similar, not similar story, but I had my own disparaging stories with the ADHA when I graduated in 2008. I freaking bullied by the leadership in New Mexico back in the day. I'm talking razor blades in my tires, like bullied. Nonsense. I was like, why do I want to be a part of this organization? Are you kidding me? And so I'll be honest, it's only been the last 4 years that I've been a member. And I do think it's very important. I do think it's paramount that we stand up. And I think hearing your story and your passion, Courtney, honestly really does give me more confidence in the organization, because I know there's a lot of infighting and a lot of nonsense. And that's what's frustrating on the hygiene side of we may not agree on everything. We probably disagree on fluoridation. To me, that's a sidestep. But we do all care that we should be able to practice and have educational standards that do go across state lines. Colorado being able to practice autonomously for almost 40 years, and the world hasn't fallen apart, and dentistry isn't going broke, and there's not just disease outrage and just malpractice happening all the time, should just literally set a precedence, like you said, that, hey, we're competent, but keep the education level up. Don't lower the bar.
Yeah.
Let us practice.
I think, to your point, the hill I will die on, if you will, is that yes, there is infighting. Yes, there has been some disagreements on what is best for our profession. But I understand politics. And we will get nowhere if we are divided.
Correct.
And without PACs, without funding to fight at federal levels, we will get nowhere. We will always be the baby fish in the pond. And so you might not necessarily agree with everything that the association is doing, but they truly are our voice. And they truly are the people that will show up and speak on our behalf. And the only way that's going to happen is if dues are paid and if membership exists. And it's like bipartisanship, right? There's not everything that you're going to agree with being Republican or being Democratic. There's always going to be a piece that doesn't perfectly align, but it's going to be that large party representation that gets the work done in politics. That's just how it works. And that might be unsavory to people, but it's the reality. And so the hill I will die on is that our association has our best interest in heart, and our dues are going to important places that will preserve our career.
Money is the mother's milk of politics. That is the reality.
Indeed it is.
All right. This took a fun turn.
Sorry.
Your passion. No, I loved it. Honestly, I loved it. But definitely we should start wrapping up. But I want to hear what your journey has been so interesting, Courtney, and just the passion that you have is it really is inspiring. And just thank you for what you do and the voices that you have across state lines and helping. I'm curious what the work that you do has taught you about compassion, resilience, and the meaning of healthcare.
I think when we look at the oral microbiome, it is so obvious to us that it is connected to the rest of the body. And so it's so obvious to me, it's truly apples and apples, that when we take care of the oral cavity to the best of our abilities, and we take care of the oral microbiome, the quality of life that we can provide for individuals that may not otherwise be attainable is mind-blowing. And it truly makes me so emotional that I get to do this, that I get to be part of someone's overall well-being that seemed impossible in a provider desert or seemed impossible without insurance. And so, as much as I shouldn't say it, the fact that I am able to do that and maybe can't pay myself as well, it's better than a paycheck.
Makes sense. What, if you're willing to share, I'm just curious if you have any stories of the direct patient impact that you've had if you're willing to share any of those.
Yeah, I had a patient the other day. He recently moved to Colorado after being incarcerated and had some really suspicious lesions generalized. And so I was able to go in and do his full evaluation. He was a veteran and didn't have insurance, but qualified for free care in the van because of his service. And so did his full evaluation. He had been really concerned about a tooth that had a hole in it when he went into the prison system. And when he came out, it had gotten bigger. And so I was able to utilize Papakari, which is easily my favorite Elevate product. It helps remove all of the soft diseased enamel and makes the prep so clean for ITR. It's beautiful. And so I was able to do that. And he said he was so afraid of getting injections, getting drilled, of having to sit there with his mouth open for so long, that when it was Papakari and glass ionomer and a teledentistry visit and an intraoral mouthwatch camera, he was like, "That's it?" And I was like, "Yeah, how's it feel?" And he was like, "I feel human. I feel put back together." He was like, "I didn't realize it could be this simple. It could be this easy. It could be this comfortable." And he was so blown away by it. He had me text my collaborative dentist and tell him that he said thank you. And he had me text Brant and Eden at MouthWatch because we were creating this program and say thank you. And it was the coolest day.
Can you describe the relationship with MouthWatch? So interesting because Dentistry One and Bristle just paired together. So they're working collaboratively doing the coaching on the oral microbiome side for that. But so is Dentistry One, you're utilizing them as your
They're my collaborative dentist.
So
yep. So they have assigned me a dentist.
awesome.
And so any of my cases that I put into the system go straight to Dr. Wygand.
Okay.
And Brant and MouthWatch and Eden, they approached me about pairing. I've been on panels with Brant before. I've worked with him really closely. And he's just so amazing at supporting hygienists, especially hygienists that are thinking outside of the box. And so he asked if this would be a project that I wanted to do. And I said, absolutely, especially if we can replicate it across state lines, that precedence we were talking about. And so we've been working on this for a couple of months now.
That's super cool. I am excited for the future in certain things.
Yeah. I was trying to, when talking to Brant about the collaboration with Bristle, I was trying to wrap my head around how that model works. But it makes sense if we have hygienists on the ground taking pictures and the x-rays to actually identify and then have the doctors actually doing the diagnosis.
Yep.
And then you're not reliant on someone 7 or 8 towns over to do it. So it's a really beautiful marrying of two really great programs.
I agree.
Yeah. What takeaway do you wish that the listeners would have about rural healthcare, and what would you want them to understand?
I would want them to understand that starting a program like this is really hard and that it would not be possible without the support of the hygiene community and the community that I live in. And one of the really cool things, I got to officially meet Heather at Evolution at RDH Under One Roof, which was an incredible experience. Highly recommend that you do it. And I got to go up into the hot seat. I volunteered because I wanted to figure out, how do I make this program sustainable? How do I make it so it becomes a Smiles Across Montana with multiple hygienists and expanding it? And the Evolution crew came up with an idea, and I'm really excited about it. We're actually going to launch it next Monday, but we are going to be able to allow folks to donate either on a monthly recurring basis or a one-time donation. And it's going to be our Sponsor a Smile program. And so folks can actually contribute to the scholarship fund to make sure that we are creating sustainable funding and sustainable care for southwestern Colorado.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, so that's kind of the segue wrap-up question is, how can listeners learn more about Painted Sky Dental and support the organization or even volunteer?
Yeah, so I have an Instagram account. That's probably where we're the most active. It's at Painted Sky Dental. And we will be launching our Sponsor a Smile campaign next Monday. And that will be available through either our Fundraise Up campaign, which is a nonprofit donation campaign, or we have Venmo, or we have our Stripe. And it, like I said, it can be recurring, it can be a single donation. All of the money that is donated will go directly to our scholarship fund for our uninsured, underinsured folks, and hopefully create some precedents to replicate this model outside of southwestern Colorado. And yeah, so any support that your listeners can give would be greatly appreciated. I want to take care of my neighbors, and I'm so thankful for any help.
Awesome. Definitely a noble cause, and definitely something worth time and money for.
And I mean, even if it were $10 a month, what you pay for a Starbucks every morning, or if you stopped using Starbucks and just donated to Courtney, you could make a huge difference in the community in the area.
And thank you both for being willing to let me talk about this on your podcast. It's very cool of you guys.
Well, awesome. We definitely am excited to see what you do for the future of dental hygiene and access to care.
Yeah.
This is a completely different subject that what we usually cover, but the oral systemic connection, access to care is super important. What that looks like on a whole level is a bit different, but I appreciate everything that you're doing. Yeah.
All right, Courtney, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.